Hello ladies and gentlemen and welcome back. It's going to be game 2 of Incite versus Corvidae, and Corvidae, they had a good showing last game, coming off of their strong performances last week, and well, they're coming up against a very incredible Incite side. My name is Alpha and I'm joined by Lynx Clone for this one, and well, it's going to be a similar story, I feel.
I'm not necessarily sure. I think Corvidae are going to learn from their draft, and they're going to rethink their strategy.
I mean, they're potentially going to be drafting, as you said, maybe a more traditional jungler this time. You know, certainly didn't help matters given that they didn't have the burst coming out for the jungle role. Kwon, you're going to be the first to take off from the table from Incite, so the support role was a bit of a problem for them last game, they're thinking.
Yes, last time they just didn't have... The problem with the Guan Yu is, as I mentioned, if you can't get a warrior support to snowball, they just don't do as well as a guardian support, and just Biggie was able to have complete free reign with the Bacchus. Inside, banning out the Cabrakan just to ensure that KO doesn't get such an easy gold like last time, making him have a bit of a rougher time in that solo lane.
I mean, you talk about Kraken being easy god. He's got a lot of damage, really, in a very accessible place. Susano, similar to that as well. A lot of damage coming out from that god as well. So the bans are going to be done. Picks are coming up right now from Incite. I can see them drafting who is their first pick and did incredibly well last game.
Yes, however, we see that the Raijin will be the first pick for this game. And I really like that Raijin pick. Like, that is an extremely strong mid laner. He does so much burst damage, and we saw at DreamHack, Yaman just did an absolutely incredible performance if he's just able to get a slight, tiny lead.
Yeah, and, well, how Ao Kuang and Kumbhakarna are going to be drafted in by Corvidae. So, Ao Kuang is a very strong jungler. Hasn't really seen much play recently because a lot of people have just been transitioning over to the more traditional assassins. But Kumbhakarna pick, that is certainly a very interesting one to be drafting as your first pick support. Bacchus and Naja over for Incite, followed up by Scylla for Corvidae. A lot of picks very quickly.
Yes, Biggie just going for a stable god. Last game we saw that both Biggie as well as Kiki Amir did an incredible job on the Neja and the Bacchus. And since they also have the CC from the Raijin, they just keep drafting just so much CC on their comp to ensure that Corvidae cannot survive. And if they can catch out that Ao Kuang in the backline with just any one of these forms of CC really, they can shut down the Ao Kuang and sure he can't dive into the backline and really destroy their combo.
And I do like the decision for Corvidae to ban out that Hui. It caused them multiple problems last game. Even if they do draft a double hunter again, which they can't really do at this point unless they put the hunter into the solo lane, which you don't see that much. So Scylla versus Raijin will most likely be your mid lane matchup. So these are the two strongest mid lanes. They're going to go with the on her ban as well. So both hunters from two hunters from last game are going to be taken off the table.
Yes, Corvidae saw that Yada played an incredible job on the Anher. And even just Lenny, if he was able to get his hands on Anher, that would be complete devastation. And since Kumbhakarna has a very weird sort of lane clear early on, he's kind of like, he's one of the more interesting kind of supports. If you let Anher get through with that golden bow and the impale easy clear, you then make it a lot harder for Kumbhakarna or whoever he is paired with as an ADC to try and contest the lane.
They've got rid of two very strong ADCs currently, and they've picked up the third on Apollo. Certainly in my eyes, the second best hunter right behind that Hu Yi. Qingwei may be able to pick up here again from Incite. They could transition into a magical damage, but they're going to go with the Cupid yet again. It's a great pickup. It stops the mobility coming out from Corvidae. It stops the initiation from Kumbhakarna, apart from this best. It stops the dash coming out from Apollo and Scylla. It stops the blink invisibility from Ao Kuang. It's a great pickup.
Yes, and not to mention the fact you combine that with the Bacchus belly flop, it's just a free heart bomb. They're falling through the air, they can't do anything. And then you basically have so much setup. And with the Sun Wukong as well, he can be wreaking absolute havoc in the backline.
Yeah, and the final pick is going to be that Osiris versus Sun Wukong. That's most likely going to be your solo lane matchup. So traditional warriors going back into that solo lane makes a bit of a change from what we saw last game. We saw Cabrakan versus the Bologna. I mean, Sun Wukong has fallen from grace recently, and Osiris has started to come on an upward trend, so we see these two warriors sort of meet in the middle at this point. Both are equally as viable as each other.
I would say Osiris has the advantage simply because his passive as well as his Judgment Tether allow him to have damage mitigation, and what Sun Wukong usually tries to do to his fellow solo laner is output a lot of burst damage. And all Osiris has to do is kind of tank up that damage and then just use his auto attacks with the Death Toll to basically heal up back to full, and he'll be absolutely fine, not a care in the world.
So we can see Incite is going to be sent by the Beast in the solo lane. on some Wukong. Kikyomi in the jungle with that Naja. Yard in the mid lane, won that Rage and leaves Biggie and just laning that dual lane with Bacchus and a Cupid.
And now for Corvidae, going into game number 2, we have KO playing Osiris in the solo lane. Omar 32 changing it up, finally picking a more rational sort of jungler on the Alcon. Desecrator playing one of his more stable gods of Scylla in the mid lane. And Chaosification in Trilogy will be your duo lane with Kumbhakarna and Apollo.
So the jungler matchup right now between Kikyomi and Olimar 32. Last game it was Naja versus Athena. The Naja has been reprived by Kikyomi, did absolute fantastic work on it last game. Olimar 32 switching it up. Alquang doesn't offer as much early aggression for the team. What he does provide is that late game hypercarry assassination coming out from just absolutely nowhere. Can really just look to take down Just Laney in an instant, could kill Kikyomi in an instant. Might be proving to kill Yada a bit more difficult, but it could still happen from an Alquang.
Yes, Alcon and Neja basically have the exact same job as both the magical and physical assassins. Their job is quite simply dive the backline, pick off the important targets, your mid laners, your ADCs, even your fellow assassins, and then use your ability, either the Windfire Wheels or the King of the Eastern Seas ultimate, pick them off, take them out of the fight, and bring the fight towards your advantage. While Alquang has a bit of an easy time kind of landing, he can choose where to land from his ultimate, while Neja is forced to come right back down where he started.
I mean, that's certainly the ways of thinking about it. I'm looking at the solo lane right now, and both of these junglers and soloists have cleared the buffs at pretty much exactly the same time. The advantage going slightly, I'm talking very slightly in favor of Incite as they cleared it with one basic attack to spare. Tayo, again, going to be left by himself in this solo lane. Clear is just too strong for Kikyomi and the Beast. And they're going to give up these fire elementals, it seems, as Alquang rotates to mid lane to help Desecrator.
Yes, simply because Sun Wukong with his magic cudgel does double damage to minions.
They're not going for the fire elementals at all. They're going for these right side mid harpies engagement. And just a slight love tap from the magic cudgel.
Yes, they simply just going to be just trying to trade blows as often as possible, these two solo laners. However, over in the duo lane, we see Incite going very aggressive.
I mean, Trilogy and Chaosification, they just can't handle the pressure coming out from Biggie and Just Laney right now. The blink coming out from Kumbhakarna means they don't have to sustain from a meditation, which Incite do. So Incite can afford to be even more aggressive. Beneflop is good, but the knock-up immunity on that Groggy Strike, great play from Chaosification to avoid some extra damage there.
However, Chaosification, if he's not careful, he may just get accidentally caught out by a Heart Bomb. And even though he has his passive up, if they want, Lenny could easily try and dive and just pick up an easy kill, as the passive limit on Kumbhakarna is quite a small number of auto attacks to finish him off in the early stages of the game.
The passive may be popped here. Can have his dash cut off as a Heart Bomb pops and stuns him. But he's still going to be alive, just popping that health potion to keep himself in good shape here. But so much aggression coming out from Biggie and Just Laney, and they don't really expect it coming out from a Bacchus that they're going to have the lane pressure.
Yes, well the thing is, with that Golden Bow, combine that with the Belly Flop and the Heart Bomb, especially the Heart Bomb stun, you really have to be careful on the side of K's and Trilogy. Because they, even though they have the Apollo so beautiful, if they get caught out just once, suddenly their entire health bar is missing, and as you mentioned, they don't really have much to sustain. They don't have that many pots available to them to heal, especially Trilogy, as he's been forced to use every single one of his pots.
ADC sort of go through their pots incredibly quickly anyway, taking a lot of minion poke, considering it's a good strategy to stand next to the minions as a support. Simply because the Golden Bow splash damage will then draw minion aggro to the enemy ADC and force them to use health and possibly even mana potions as they struggle to clear the wave incredibly quickly. I do like Biggie's decision here though, just rotating away from this dual lane for a bit, putting a bit of a fear of God into the mid lane.
And with the Fields of Love down, Biggie can actually possibly look to try and dive Chaosification, as Trilogy was forced to back.
And it's just going to be messed out completely there. Biggie going to be receiving a root, but that's all she's going to be writing for this engagement as Trilogy goes back to the base. Level 4, so does not have across the skies to get back into this dual lane as quickly as possible. Instead, it's going to be invade on the red buff, so that's a good timing on the invade coming out from Incite.
However, Incite able to steal away the speed buff, while Corvidae were able to get the red buff. So basically it's a 1-for-1 trade. However, usually you want to be able to acquire your speed buff more than your red buff, in my opinion.
Yeah, but they're going to go back to the mid lane now. I mean, well, someone can't going to get aggressed on here by 3 members. He's perfectly fine to just have this aggression onto him, though. He's just calmly and collectively not being forced into his ultimate. And that's just going to be a win for Incite completely.
And over in the solo lane, we see the Thunder Crash come out, and Yada picks up a kill on Desecrator. That was a very good team fight by Incite. They just forced the aggression over in Corvidae's jungle, and they were able to take up the advantage there.
Yeah, and, well, they could go back into this solo lane, clear it up, Kikyo just ring-tossing it, and KO, he's just going to stand there, just pick up the remains of the minion wave. He's currently a level behind his solo lane opponent at 400 gold, and also he expects from an Osiris who likes to be the bully, who likes to be the aggressor early on.
But just simply due to the Bluestone Pendant as well as the Magic Cudgel Clear, it's just something you can't compete with, even if you are Osiris with your AoE auto attacks, as well as the Sickle Strike and Spirit Flail.
Mid lane tower still looking incredibly healthy. I imagine that's exactly where people are going to be looking for the next fights. Try and take down that high value map objective. It may not be high value in gold, but it's high value in terms of the pressure it can bring you. It allows you to invade a lot more safely, really. Well, they're going to be going to left-hand side. Mid Harpies are going to be down on that side. Corvidae be realizing that right now as they lose even more farm and start to fall even further behind.
Corvidae really need to make sure they get this Alquang online. We've seen last week Deadweight with Ogre when he was playing Alquang. Once he was able to get ahead, there was no stopping him. He was just diving the black line, using that blink as usually that second relic is what you see from an Alquang, and able to get a lot of free kills, combining that Polynomicon with the Wild Call the Wild Storm Dragon Call combo.
Well, mid lane, Indiada is just going to be clearing that up against the three members of Corvidae to create a classification on Limar 32. They're not really being able to find any aggression whatsoever. So it's, I don't know, it's a bit difficult for them to do anything when Incite are just playing so far back, despite the fact that they've got the early aggression advantage.
Yes, they really need to take advantage of both the Cupid as well as the Raijin compared to the Scylla Alquang, who have a bit rougher compared. And now what they can look to do instead is basically, if they can catch out Corvidae and force Desecrate even further behind, he hasn't even got his Shoes of the Magi yet, so they really want to shut him down and just make him a non-influential
purification. So they look to try and take down this ADC. I think he may be falling down. His third ultimate does come down onto the Hunter. Just ready to credit with the kill with the Heart Bomb. Benefit from back is going to be off the mark in the air. Goes Olimar 32. Windfire Will's going to be used on him again. It's just a repeat of last game. Heart Bomb is good. We're looking for him. And he's going to take a lot of damage but not die, because Calcification can be hitting with the Heart Bomb as well. Now they're going aggressive onto Desecrator, who's hit with the Heart Bomb as well. It's not going to be enough damage, is it? Just not enough. And again, surviving on the members of Corvidae. They lose one, but they should have lost a lot more. They're actually going to be losing another one. KO on the odd rotation into the mid lane, going to be cut out completely.
Yes, that is the exact... You just saw Raijin there. You just saw all he had to do was just Thunder Crush Raiju right in there. And as he had the backup from the rest of his team, including Biggie and the Beast, they just bursted him down. Even KO, known for being... Osiris, known as one of the most tanky warriors in the game, he just doesn't stand a chance. And once you start to see things like the Imperial... Most likely a Dynasty Platehelm, or even a Duo come out from Yada, that's when Raijin really starts becoming such a terrifying threat that he is right now.
I don't really agree with going into a Doom Orb, especially considering it's not going to be your first rushed item. You're going to be getting that stacking item afterwards. I'd much rather see a Book of Thought, or maybe even a Warlock Sash, especially on a god like Raijin, who has scaling protections but not scaling HP. You could really be a frontline, sort of pseudo-Zhonghui style of mage if you get that Warlock Sash.
Well, how I see Raijin is basically you force people into choke points, and then you use your Taiko drums. However, over in the duo lane, Trilogy getting very low after the Fields of Love has been popped.
Yeah, but the aggression goes on onto the left-hand mid Harpies instead. Olimar 32, quite low. Windfire Will's just off the mark for Kikyo Miz, who tries to chase the invisibility. Use a ring toss though, and up in the air goes Biggie from the epic going on for Calcification. Complete wash of the fight as few ultimates have been expended.
Yes, however, Olimar 32 being forced to back is an advantage. They don't have to deal with him. Alquang just being on the map himself is a threat, and if you can force him to get away from the major objectives...
Trilogy gonna get dived here by Just Lady. Heart Bomb might do the damage needed, and it does indeed. Just Lady credits him with a solo kill. 3 levels ahead of his ADC opponent. That's just the pressure Cupid can bring.
Cupid is just a very strong early and mid-game kind of god. As you saw there, the Heart Bomb puts a lot of burst damage, and the scaling on Heart Bomb is absolutely insane. It has a 90% scaling, 90%, and this is just like a regular ability, and that can hit just so hard. It's kind of like a Hebo ability, basically, and it just explodes right in your face.
Don't forget, it's 90% scaling per hit, and it hits twice. Once when the initial damage is applied, and once when it explodes. So it's essentially 180% scaling. It's why back when Transcendence was meta, you saw Cupid's being picked up every so often. So because the scaling is so high with the early bounce of power you get from Transcendence, it just makes it so your Heart Bomb basically one-shots people at level 9.
And even though Golden Bow has been nerfed this patch from 55 physical power to 50 physical power early is not something to laugh at. Even though you're not getting that Transcendence now, the Golden Bow well makes up for that.
Oh, but Fields of Love come out, and a huge burst as well with the Intoxicate classification. All basic attacks needed from just saying, but good body blocks actually saved the life of their support. The passive is down, but Yada's on the back line. He's going to be Thunder Crashing in. Classification dead. All about 32 and Trinity joining him in the afterlife is just leaning with the double kill. Quick as you like.
Yada just had a very easy rotation there. He just was able to get in there, dive behind the tower, and since everything was forced by classification, even the passive on him, if once that was all down, all he needed to do, just Thunder Crash in, do his thing, get out, and allow Just Laney to die from in front. So essentially, it was a two-prong attack that just made it super easy for Incite to get the lead. 7-0 currently the scoreboard reads. 10 minutes in, the graphs 8,800 XP, 5,500 gold. Even though the drafts have changed, the situation is just the same as last game, as Incite have a commanding lead.
They've just lost a bit of CC, I feel. Calcification got that blink early, but just hasn't been able to use it all. Just been stuck underneath the tower on left-hand side, been stuck on the tower in mid, and forced to make defensive rotations. There's been 0 engage coming off from Corvidae, and it's just not helping. They have the Kumbhakana Scylla combination. It's just not been used at all. It's just only rotating to the mid lane. And again, just Laney's presence there is enough to force
over in the sword lane, though, Windfire Wheels has come out.
And Olimar 32 going to be taken down by the Beast. Kaio not able to do a thing about it, as he just watches his blue buff get taken and his jungler die. His tower going to be taking damage as well. It's just complete control coming out from inside. Corvidae are doing very little to try and alleviate this situation.
Well, the problem with Kumbhakana is he has a lot of soft CC in his kit. Like, he has the Mez, he has the Brute, but he doesn't have a lot of hard CC. The only hard CC he has
but just
is his ultimate.
in the mid lane. Because of Fields of Love, the Heart Bomb to Desecrator, and immediately down to half health goes Scylla. Despite the fact she wasn't even hit by the Fields of Love, Heart Bomb doing exuberant amounts of damage.
And not to mention the purification being pulled means that Kiki and Mio, he's just going to sit and wait, try and land that Amelia Sash and catch that Scylla in the backline unprotected.
Yes, Scylla has just been free to do nothing this game. I mean, don't think we've even seen a monster popped once at all. There's been a lack of ultimates popped by Corvidae. And even if they did pop it would be defensively most of the time. A lot of them have CC immunity to get out of abilities like the Taiko Drums, like the Fields of Love. Maybe even the Windfire Wheels if it's fired by Kiki or Mio.
And as you saw, that Desecrator, they're just all really scared of Incite right now. Already forced to use the Central, even though he's under the tower. And now what they're looking to do is just take this tier 1 tower in the mid lane absolutely free, while Corvidae kind of sit around that tier 2 not knowing what to do. And now the Beast is rotated over as well. This is going to be a very easy free tier 1.
And it's just going to be, again, Incite taking complete control, taking down this major map objective once again. And like I said before, it doesn't just give... It just doesn't give the 100 gold per player. It gives map pressure. It allows you easier invade.
Biggie, sorry, actually, Biggie able to get the kill there with the Intoxicate onto Calcification deep in the backline. And now Incite looking to back away as Desecrator, as Olimar try to rotate in, but they can't find anything. And now Gold Fury is being started up by Incite.
After you take down the support, there's very little you can do as a defending team on the Gold Fury to try and take it down and steal it. So it's going to be absolutely free for Incite. There's a potential for another monster to take it, but it's just not going to be there, I don't think.
And Incite able to take the Gold Fury as well as pick up a kill. Lane was able to pick up a kill onto Olimar. He tried to steal it, but it's absolutely no avail. And Incite now looking to try and take this red buff as well as go onto Scylla as Kiyomiri takes him into the sky. And Yada picks up the kill using the Thunder Crash. I think that was actually the Percussive Storm there. Finishes up him, and Yada taking the red buff again. This is just complete dominant from Incite, and now having a look at the grass, we can see it is a 12,000 XP, 8,000 gold. Incite just taking this advantage and pushing it an absolute mile.
So Corvidae, they were afforded some room last game by Incite, maybe a lack of respect, maybe just a bit of too much confidence from Incite. This game, they've just given them the full respect. They've made sure that they know exactly who one of the best teams in the region are, and Incite are here to just say, Corvidae, you've had your fun. We're just going to take this game incredibly quickly.
And now Incite have rotated onto KO. There's a 3-man gang. The Judgment Tether comes out, but Raijin is now rotated in. The Percussive Storm comes out, and the Beast finishes him off with the Magic Stick. And now they're looking possibly to try and take this tier 1, or even just take the blue buff again. They're just constantly taking buffs. Wherever Incite can find a buff, they are most likely going to take it.
Yeah, that's what you need to do when you have the advantage, when you have the aggression. You need to make sure that you take away the enemy jungle, deny them farm. Because we're in a jungle heavy meta right now. When the jungler falls behind, it affects the entire team. Before, in previous metas, it wasn't so imperative that the jungler stayed ahead or was at least at level with the enemy jungler, but now it's so important that it's actually the driving force behind most teams.
And while they were able to take the tier 1 tower, Just Laney is actually possibly getting surrounded as the Fields of Love has been hot. Desecrator very low. Just Laney trying to pick up the kill, but a 4-man rotation from Corvidae are trying to pick up him, and the Execute's not going to hurt. Desecrator finishes him off with the Crush. Corvidae finally getting their first kill of the game, even the duo lane, and there was no one around for Incite as everyone else was actually pushing in the Soda lane trying to get that tier 1.
Yeah, they expanded a couple of ultimates there as well. They'd used the, I must say they used the King of the Eastern Seas as well. 2 big teamfight ultimates. They finally use them. They finally pop. They finally get a kill on the board, and it might be a turnaround comeback as Zomboys.
Yes, however, they're going to have to win a lot more team fights than just that. The level disparity between the teams is very massive, and they haven't been able to get many objectives. All towers are still up on the side of Incite, while only 3 mere tier 2s remain on the side for Corvidae.
Yeah, but that aggression, that kill, as Corvidae, the kill for Corvidae really happened because Just Laney went aggressive onto the Gold Fury without knowing exactly where the rest of the members of Corvidae are. It was a good trap. He actually missed a hard bomb onto Desecrator, and that could have been the reason why he didn't get a kill for his life.
Yes, but now what they're looking, now we can see that Incite kind of just grouping around in this mid lane. No major objectives except for Fire Giant are currently up. And Incite possibly looking to go quite deep. They still have the advantage. They still have everything in their hands. They can just look to try and be aggressive and force uncomfortable team fights for Corvidae.
And Corvidae, they're trying to find aggression. They're trying to make sure that they have a fight which they can take. But Incite, they're just too grouped up right now. They're making sure that they always have engagements on their terms. And it's just not happening for Corvidae.
And now Incite just taking away the red buff again, just every single time these buffs up, they have their timers, they have the memo, and now they're looking to possibly take this mid lane tier 2.
The tier 2 is not as important as the tier 1. It does give you more gold, but less map pressure overall. But I do agree that it needs to try and take down as many map objectives as possible. Corvidae have a phenomenal lane.
Kikyo blinks and uses the Windfire Wheels. The Mesmerize comes out from Casification. However, Yada picks up a very quick kill on Desecrator using that Taiko drums to try and finish him up. And now Incite looking to take this tier 2. However, Olimar trying to find some harass by Kikyo landing the artillery satch. And the Tiger's done. However, Olimar able to do the water illusion to just get away. The Beast, Yada though, picks up the kill on Olimar 32, and they are now looking to take this Phoenix after taking a very easy tier 2. Casification, very, very low. The Beast stuns him out. Passive. Pop for Kupakana. Biggie finishing him up, but Beast picks up the kill. The Osiris ultimate comes out, and now he's trying to chase down all low members on Incite. However, it looks like they'll be able to get away, and KO is now just trying to defend the Phoenix. The Beast re-engage just to apply a little bit more damage using the bird to get away. They might actually be able to get this Phoenix. It's now around half health. And now there's only Trilogy, KO, and Desecrator. Even though he's just come out, they won't be able to defend this Phoenix, as it looks like Incite finally... Actually, no, they're backing up. They're not able to get the Phoenix.
Well, that's very strange. Incite certainly should have been able to take it there. I think they just were too scared of the respawn timers coming up from Corvidae. Olimar 32.
However, Just Laney, able to pick up a kill and then the King of the Eastern Seas comes out from Olimar, finishing off the Beast. There was a 1-for-1 trade there, and now Olimar diving deep, knowing that Incite alive. However, the artillery sash allowing to keep him in place long enough. Yada piece of the kill to Olimar. The Windfire Wheels do come out though, and now they've taken Trilogy into their Trilogy very low, but Kikyo also extremely low. They're so beautiful, finishes it off, and now Corvidae actually turning around that team fight pretty nicely. What could have possibly been a lost Phoenix into actually some sort of a win and a little bit of an advantage towards Corvidae.
Hey, that's what they needed to do. Saw that Incite were backing off. They knew they were low. They had to make sure that they caught up with people, take them down one by one. Yes, they sacrificed Olimar 32 and Desecrator, but at the same time, they picked up kills on Olimar 32 and Trilogy. They're starting to build up a bit of a head of steam, and it could, I'm saying could, potentially put them into a position where they can take team fights.
However, I'm currently having a look at the Scylla. She's built into the Doom Orb second item, and I'm really not sure that's the way to go. What are your thoughts on the Doom Orb?
I'm really not a fan of Doom Orb anymore. Yes, it was fantastic when it was reintroduced because it gave you a lot of early power for such a cheap price. But mid laners are just so squishy. They're there to do damage and die. And dying resets your stacks, resets your power. And Book of Thoth is just, it gives you more power. Yes, it costs a bit more, but it also makes sure you never run out of mana. And it's better overall. I like Book of Thoth a lot more than Doom Orb at this point.
Yes, and while that was happening, Incite were able to secure the Gold Fury, and they're looking to push down this tier 2 lane. 4 members for Incite there, while there's only 3 members of Corvidae right now there. So Biggie possibly looking to invade this red buff, and I think he was actually able to steal with the belt. No, he wasn't. Desecrator able to get the buff. But Incite now ready to engage for this team fight.
The left side tier 2 is going to be quaking in its stone boots. As, well, Incite, they're grouping up around it, and I think they may be able to try and take this one down. The engagement should come out any second.
Yes, and now after that kind of reset there of the team fight, Incite are now finally 4 members there, and Kikumio slowly rotating also over from the mid lane. Expect to see a Raijin ultimate, or even just B just belly flopping in, or just some sort of blink to pick up the kill. Kikumio looking over the wall to see if he can get something with the blink, just waiting ever so patiently just to pick up something, just little bits of poke coming out from the beast to just whittle them away slowly under tower. They don't have the Guan Yu like last game.
They have regeneration though, thanks to a meditation on Biggie, and they also have the Somersault Cloud onto the beast, so he's going to be happy to take a few tower shots here and there. So
and now the Osiris ult comes out onto Yada, as well as Kikumir trying to get it taked up into the sky. The Tiger Drums does come out, Kazakation extremely low, Biggie belly flopping, not hit the mark. Somersault Cloud also able to land onto Kaiser. However, Laney able to pick up Olimar 32 as now Biggie is chasing other members of the backline, able to get an Intoxicate onto Kaiser and KO, now forced to back off. Inside, get the tier 2. And now all 5 members are looking to possibly push the Phoenix. However, Desecrator still looking around, maybe trying to find just something, but realizes if he engages, that would be suicide, and is now going back via the mid Phoenix.
And you mentioned they didn't have the sustain from Guan Yu. They have a Cupid, who may not be a better healer, but is still a healer in the sense that it's small heals incrementally going out throughout the fight, that you don't really have to sit back and heal in them. It's just one burst right there and then. So it offers a similar situation here, but this time coming out from just laning on the ADC rather than a support or solo laner, which is really fantastic for Incite, because just laning, yes, he died once for his over-aggression, but he's just been doing a lot of damage, a lot of presence in these fights without really being under trouble, under duress at all.
Yes, and so do you think that Corvidae can actually find a way to break through this backline with Olimar? Because as you've seen, there's only been really one time where Olimar's been able to really show the true effect of Ao Kuang. So do you think they will actually be able to break through the backline?
I don't think they can at this point unless it goes to a hyper late game, like we're talking 40 minutes in. Because Olimar's so far behind right now, 21 minutes in, he's level 14. Comparing that to Kikumio, who's level 18, he's done very well for himself. 1 and 6 on the Ao Kuang. He got that kill earlier. He's also going into a Soul Reaver right now, which, for an Ao Kuang, was nerfed. Like, I talked about Soul Reaver before, in the fact that for some characters it was a buff, for some characters it was a nerf. For Ao Kuang, it was a straight up nerf. He has to do more damage now before he can get up to the execute threshold. Yes, you can do it a bit more often, but you're really looking for the damage into execute to then re-engage your fight.
Yes, and what I'd like to see out of this game, especially from Kikumir, I mentioned last game he should really pick up a Mantle of Discord, and in this game it'd be even more important tenfold, simply because it can actually stun out the Ao Kuang, basically countering him and not allowing him to finish off his combo. Fire Giant being started up by Incite.
And Corvidae, I don't think they have any idea that this is going on. KO did back. He does have his teleport. He may be able to try and potentially steal this, but they're just not going anywhere near the Fire Giant.
Secure fire. They're actually able to secure. However, other time is going on. Trilogy using that power of the Polo to try and split push in the dual lane, able to already take the tier 1 and possibly the tier 2. However, the Beast teleported over to try and stop the bleeding. Incite now looking to go and KO, getting caught in the fields of love. Pops his beads, walks away there, uses the Judgment Tether, and now sitting under the tier 2, trying to see what they can do. Incite all grouping up, seeing what they can do. And now Trilogy rotating in with the Across the Skies, showing even more of the power of the Apollo.
It wasn't the beats that he popped. KO doesn't have purification. What he did is he has Wing Blade, which nullifies the slows.
Sorry, the Windfire Wheel is coming actually out from Kikimir onto Trilogy just to keep him out, getting extremely like Barkus picks up the kill with the Intoxicate, and now this is the re-engagement from Incite, even though they were forced to back off. And now Kikimiri picks up a kill on Olimar. The Groggy Strike trying to stop Laney from doing something. However, the Tycho Drums now bringing KO. Yada finishes him off. beast chasing down Desecrate as he was forced to use the Armor Monster. Kiyumi actually using the Blink to get in the tower. They're going to pick up Casification. This is Deicide. Everyone is down on the side of Corvidae. The time is looking very disastrous. An instant one that could easily look to end as they're now looking to push in the Solo Phoenix.
There's just nothing that Corvidae could do about that. They just fought a Fire Giant inside. They had very little hope of winning that fight unless they got a perfect combination of, we're talking 4-man Mez, 5-man Mez into a Epic Uppercut, into an Armor Monster landing at the same time the person in the air lands for a 5-man
That's not going to happen
pentakill.
though. However, the Titan does fall. Incite take the game in 24 minutes, 23-3. Incite with a resounding win over Corvidae this week.
Yeah, Corvidae, they held their own. They showed that they have what it takes to stay in this league and be with the position that they are, albeit in fortunate circumstances that they have. And, well, we do have our player of the game. It is